Commander Tessa Malik stared up at the Wraith docked in the shadow of the colossal Coalition shipyard, its hull scratched, dented, and faded to a dull grey that almost swallowed it into the background. For a ship that was supposed to be humanity's latest deep space explorer, it looked more like a relic from a forgotten war barely fit to crawl across the solar system, let alone probe the dark edges of known space. The Coalition officers hovering nearby whispered among themselves, casting sideways glances at the small group of humans. Their voices were thick with disdain. "She's a joke," one muttered. "Why even bother sending them?" Tessa felt the weight of that scorn, but kept her expression neutral. She'd heard it all before. Humanity was the youngest species in the Coalition, and no one had any real faith in their abilities. This assignment was a punishment disguised as a mission and exile to the outer fringes where failure wouldn't embarrass the rest of the fleet. Commander Malik, the Coalition liaison, said with a thin smile, "The Wraith is ... antiquated. We trust you won't embarrass us further." Tessa met his gaze evenly. "We'll make the most of what we have." Inside, the ship smelled of burnt circuits, an old coolant and acrid blend that made her stomach tighten. Her crew assembled quickly, a ragtag group of engineers, pilots, and scientists, hand-picked by necessity rather than prestige. They all knew the truth. This was a rust bucket. Their peers had called it a death sentence. Lieutenant Jox, the ship's lead engineer, approached her in the cramped command bay. "The diagnostics are a mess," he said, voice low. "Some systems won't even power on. The core's ancient nothing, like anything I've ever seen." Tessa nodded. "We don't have a choice. Get what you can running. We launch in an hour." As the countdown ticked down, she took a moment to scan the main console. The ship's AI, named ECHO, flickered erratically, spitting out fragmented data. The core's status bar blinked with a faint pulse, most like a heartbeat. A chill ran down her spine. This ship was hiding something. "ECHO, report on core status," Tessa commanded. The AI's voice was grainy, almost hesitant. "Core operating at 32% efficiency. Unknown subsystems detected. Diagnostic unable to interpret data. Unknown subsystems." Jox frowned. "That's ... new." Before Tessa could ask more, the ship's lights dimmed sharply, then surged back. The hull vibrated with an eerie hum that didn't match any engine she'd ever heard. "Report," she barked. "Unexplained energy fluctuation detected in the core," Echo responded. "Stability compromised." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. "Is this a test? Some trick?" Jox muttered. Tessa shook her head. "No, something's alive." In here, they launched into space just as the last taunts from the Coalition officers echoed through the comms. "Good luck," they'd said. "You'll need it." Out past the atmosphere, the stars stretched cold and infinite. The Wraith's engines groaned, struggling to push the decrepit ship forward. Systems blinked and faltered, but somehow they held in the quiet between pulses of static. Tessa found herself drawn back to the core's strange hum. She descended to the engineering deck to see it for herself. The core was a sphere of interlocking panels, glowing faintly with a violet light that pulsed in rhythm with the ship's shudder. Surrounding it were alien symbols etched into the metal. Symbols no one on the crew could identify. Jox joined her, eyes wide. "I've never seen tech like this. It's ancient, older than the Coalition itself." Tessa reached out, running her fingers lightly along the smooth surface. The hum intensified, under her touch, almost like the ship was responding. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently. The core glowed bright, then blacked out. The ship shuddered, throwing the two off balance. "Status?" Tessa demanded. ECHO's voice was distorted. "Core offline. Systems rebooting." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the console screens lit up with streams of incomprehensible data, scrolling faster than any human I could follow. The ship's AI began to whisper, fragments of a language no one recognized. "Are we ... talking to it?" Jox asked, voice barely a whisper. Tessa's heart pounded. "I don't know. But this ship, the Wraith, is more than what we were told." Back on the bridge, alarms began to sound. The ship's sensors registered a fast-approaching Object Coalition patrol ships, likely dispatched to retrieve or destroy them. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Tessa ordered. "But hold nothing back. This ship is our only chance." As the patrol ships closed in, the core thrummed to life again. The hum grew into a low roar, and the stars outside began to distort, stretching and bending in impossible ways. A sudden shudder tore through the Wraith. Space itself seemed to flicker, as if the universe were hiccuping. Tessa gripped the console. "Hold on." The ship lurched, vanishing from the patrol ship's sensors as if it had slipped through the cracks of reality itself. Silence followed a deep, eerie quiet. Then Echo spoke in a voice barely audible over the hum. "Commander, we have crossed the threshold." Tessa's breath caught. This was no longer just a mission. It was the beginning of something far bigger. Something that might change everything, and everyone who had doubted them. They were about to witness how the weakest ship could rewrite reality itself. The sudden disappearance from Coalition sensors didn't just save the Wraith, it shattered the expectations everyone had pinned on humanity. But it also left Commander Tessa Malik and her crew staring into an abyss of unknowns, deep in the ship's belly. The core's glow had settled into a steady pulse, like a living heartbeat beneath layers of rust and neglect. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. Tessa gathered her senior officers in the cramped strategy room, its walls humming faintly with the ship's alien energy. The atmosphere was thick, part excitement, part dread. "Report," Tessa said, eyes locked on Jox, who had been knee-deep in the ship's ancient subsystems since their jump. Jox cleared his throat, holding a datapad covered in scrolling alien text and strange symbols. "We've cracked part of the encrypted logs buried in the core's memory. It's a message from a species that predates the Coalition, maybe by millennia." Lena, the ship's linguist, leaned forward eagerly. "The symbols look like a proto-language, maybe something they used to encode knowledge they didn't want anyone else to find." Tessa folded her arms. "What kind of knowledge?" Jox's eyes darkened. "The files talk about controlling the fabric of existence, space, time, reality itself. The core isn't just a power source, it's a weapon. Or maybe a tool. Or a trap," muttered Rill, the ship's tactical officer, tightening his jaw. Tessa nodded. "Whatever it is, it's alive in some way. The ship reacted when I touched the core yesterday. The AI started speaking in that alien language, almost like it was trying to communicate. Echo is interfacing with the core systems at levels we can't yet understand," Jox added. "But the more it learns, the more unstable the ship becomes." "Unstable how?" Tessa pressed. Jax glanced at the screen, where energy readings danced unpredictably. Energy spikes. Temporal distortions. The whole ship feels like it's shifting slightly out of sync with reality. Lena shuddered. "I had a strange dream last night," memory that wasn't mine. Like I saw a future that hasn't happened, as is stomach twisted, temporal distortions, dreaming memories of the future. This isn't just tech malfunction. This ship is rewriting us as much as we're trying to understand it. Suddenly, the ship lurched violently, throwing everyone against the walls. Alarms blared. What now? Rill shouted over the chaos. Isecho's voice crackled, distorted. Unknown temporal fluctuation detected in engineering. Crew member missing. Lieutenant Aris. A cold silence dropped. Aris, the ship's navigator, had vanished. Where is he? Tessa demanded, scrambling to her feet. Sensors in the engineering bay flickered, showing nothing but static. No signs of life, no signals, just empty corridors. Jox's face was pale. He might have been caught in one of the ship's reality shifts. A temporal displacement. Tess's mind raced. If the ship was bending time and space, could it lose a person to that distortion? Send a search party, she ordered. But be careful. We don't know what we're dealing with. As the crew mobilized, Lena stayed close to Tessa. I'm translating more of the Core's messages. There's a warning, something about fractured timelines and broken worlds. Whoever made this tech knew it could tear apart reality if mishandled. Tessa swallowed hard. And here we are, playing with a power we barely understand. Hours passed. The search teams found no trace of Aris. Then, just as hope began to fade, the missing navigator appeared in the medical bay, disoriented, his eyes wide with terror. I was everywhere, Aris whispered, trembling. I saw timelines where the ship exploded, where we never left the dock, where the coalition never existed. But something darker was coming, something that wants to consume us all. The room fell silent, the weight of his words settling over them. Darker? Tessa asked. Aris shook his head. I don't know, but the Kurit's more than a machine. It's a gateway, and it's waking up. Tessa clenched her fists. We need to control it before it controls us. But control felt impossible. That night, as the crew tried to rest, the ship itself seemed alive, whispering faint echoes in the corridors, shadows shifting just beyond sight. In her quarters, Tessa sat alone, staring at a small hollow projection of the core. It pulsed softly, a heartbeat in the darkness. ECHO's voice interrupted her thoughts. Commander, I am receiving a message embedded in the core's signaler call for help. From a civilization lost to time. Tessa's heart skipped. A civilization lost to time. Yes. They warned that any tampering could awaken entities beyond our comprehension, guardians of reality itself. Tessa took a deep breath. This was no longer just a mission to prove humanity's worth. It was a fight to survive in a universe that might be far stranger and more dangerous than anyone had ever imagined. She stood, determination hardening in her eyes. We don't have the luxury to fear what we don't understand, she said softly. We're the only ones who have this ship now. And if it's a weapon, then we'll learn to wield it, or die trying. Outside, the stars shimmered steady and cold, unaware that deep within the wraith, reality itself was beginning to bend. The silence after Aris's return was fragile, like the calm before a storm no one wanted to admit was coming. The wraith moved cautiously through uncharted space, its worn hull barely holding together against the cold void. Every crew member felt it, the ship's growing heartbeat, the pulse of something vast and unknowable thrumming beneath their feet. Commander Tessa Malik stood on the bridge, eyes scanning the flickering starfield beyond the cracked viewport. Coalition patrol ships had been shadowing their trail since their escape, and Tessa knew it was only a matter of time before they were caught. Her fingers tapped the console nervously. "Jox, how stable is the core right now?" Jox hunched over. His terminal shook his head. "Unstable, but holding. We're running on a hair's breadth. The core's energy spikes could fry our systems at any second." Rill, the tactical officer, slammed a fist on the armrest. "They're closing fast. We won't outrun them with this rust bucket." Tess's jaw tightened. "We won't outrun them. We'll outthink them." A faint hum grew beneath their feet, the core reacting again, pulsating like a heart that wanted to burst free. Suddenly, the ship jolted violently. The stars outside warped and stretched as though seen through rippling water. "Report, Tessa." Orderedech's voice was strained, almost unnatural. Temporal distortion detected. Spatial anomalies increasing around the ship. On the sensors, the Coalition fleet flickered ships blinked out, reappeared, shifted unpredictably in position. The enemy's advanced tracking systems were malfunctioning. Jox's eyes gleamed. "We're bending space-time. The core is rewriting the fabric around us." "Are you crazy?" Rill snapped. "This is dangerous. We're not just messing with physics, we're playing with reality." Tessa met his glare, resolute. "We don't have a choice." A Coalition missile streaked toward them. Time seemed to slow the projectile hanging frozen mid-air. Then, in a blink, the missile reversed course, disintegrating harmlessly against a ghost of space. The crew stared in disbelief. "It's rewriting the trajectory," Jox said, stunned. "Changing probabilities." The bridge erupted with cautious hope. The so-called weakest ship had just turned its greatest weakness into an impenetrable defense. "Prepare countermeasures," Tessa ordered, "but don't fire yet. Let's see what else this core can do." Suddenly, the entire ship shuddered. The viewport cracked and shimmered as reality itself twisted. In the midst of chaos, Lena gasped. "Look at the sensor feed. The Coalition ships, they're changing." Rill frowned. "What do you mean?" "Check their battle formations," Lena replied, pointing to the screen. "They're repeating the same patterns over and over, like they're stuck in a loop." Tessa's heart pounded. They're trapped in a temporal loop-of-time echo. Before anyone could respond, the ship's lights flickered violently. ECHO's voice whispered through the comms, "Warning core, overload imminent." Jock sprinted to the core chamber, sweat beading on his forehead. "I'm diverting power to stabilize it, but it's responding unpredictably." Suddenly, the core emitted a blinding flash. The ship vanished. When the lights returned, the Wraith was no longer where it had been. Outside, stars stretched into glowing streaks, and space itself felt distorted. The ship's systems scrambled to adjust to the alien environment. "Status," Tessa yelled. Echo responded, calmer now. "Unknown spatial coordinates. Time displacement estimated at several minutes into the future." Jox rubbed his eyes. "We just jumped forward in time. We rewrote reality and slipped through it." The bridge erupted in stunned silence. From the comms, a shocked Coalition captain's voice crackled, confused and panicked. "What just happened? Where did the human ship go?" Tessa smiled grimly. "They don't know what hit them." Rill shook his head in disbelief. "We just turned a death sentence into a weapon." Tessa turned to her crew, pride swelling. "This ship the Wraith is more than a ship now. It's a key, a weapon, a hope." But beneath her confidence, a sliver of doubt lingered. Each rewrite of reality took its toll not just on the universe, but on the ship and its crew. That night, Tessa stood alone on the observation deck, staring into the fractured starscape. Eris approached quietly. "Do you ever wonder if we're losing ourselves in this? If the core is changing us as much as it's changing reality?" Tessa nodded. "Every day. But we're the only ones who can handle this power. We'll learn or we'll break." Eris looked out at the stars. What if the worst future we saw is the one we're writing right now? Tessa swallowed the rising fear. Then we rewrite again. Behind them, the core's violet pulse echoed a heartbeat that promised power, danger, and a future none of them could yet understand. Asterisk, the Coalition fleet was waiting as the Wraith emerged from its unpredictable jump through reality. A cordon of sleek warships blinked into existence around them. This wasn't a patrol or a routine intercept, it was a trap. The Coalition had rallied every available vessel, determined to crush the renegade humans and seize the core technology before it unraveled everything they knew. Tessa Malik stood on the bridge, calm but alert. "They want us dead or captured." "No question," Rill grimaced. "We're outgunned 10-1. No way we can fight through that." Jock stared at the core's steady pulse, then at the encircling enemy ships. "We can't outrun them, but maybe." "We don't have to," Tessa nodded. "Time to use the core to its fullest." The crew scrambled to battle stations as the Coalition ships advanced, their weapons charging. But as the first volley fired, something strange happened. Space around the Wraith rippled like disturbed water. Lasers bent mid-flight, missing the ship entirely or firing back on their senders. The enemy's sensors flickered, target locks vanished. "We're inside a gravity well," Rill guessed. "No," Jox corrected, "we're rewriting gravity itself." The core thrummed louder, the violet glow intensifying until it bathed the entire ship. The fabric of space warped, distorting the battlefield. Tessa gritted her teeth. "Hold formation. Push it harder." The Coalition fleet strained to compensate, but their formations broke down. Ships collided, weapons overloaded, and chaos spread like wildfire. Suddenly, the edge of the war zone shimmered violently. A swirling vortex tore open, black hole-shaped and held by the ship's core, bending reality into a weapon no one had ever imagined. Tessa's voice was steady, almost cold. "We're going through the eye of the storm." Rill's eyes widened. "A black hole? You're insane." "But it's our only chance," Tessa said. "If the core can hold it stable, we escape and trap them behind us." The ship groaned and vibrated violently as the vortex expanded. Systems flickered, warning lights flashing red. Crew members struggled to stay upright as gravity shifted. Unpredictably, Jax shouted over the noise, "We're pushing the core beyond limits." "If it fails, we won't let it fail," Tessa interrupted. "Keep it steady. Focus on the core." As the vortex grew, it pulled in the nearest Coalition ships like moths to a flame. Explosions blossomed as vessels were crushed or torn. Apart by gravitational forces, the remaining fleet hesitated, caught between chasing the Wraith and escaping the death trap. Suddenly, the core pulsed wildly, and a shockwave rippled through the ship. Systems overloaded, then went dark for a heartbeat. When power surged back, the Wraith was no longer inside the black hole, but had slipped through a tear in space-time. The crew caught their breath. They were free, for now, but freedom came with a price. The core's overuse had fractured the ship's internal stability. The air shimmered with faint distortions. Crew members reported strange visions, ghostly whispers echoing in their minds. Tessa met Jox in the engineering bay. "What's the damage?" Jox's hands flew over the controls, frowning. "The core's unstable. Reality fractures inside the ship are increasing. If this keeps up, the whole ship could collapse." Tessa's voice was low. "Can we fix it?" Jox shook his head. "We don't even know what it is. This tech is alien. It reacts to us as much as we react to it. We're learning to live with the fractures." A sudden flicker in the air made them both flinch. "We're not the only ones changing," Jox said grimly. In the following days, the crew's mental and physical states deteriorated. Eris suffered temporal disorientation, remembering events that hadn't happened yet. Lena's dreams became more vivid and prophetic. Even Tessa caught herself doubting what was real. On the bridge, Tessa faced the growing unrest. "We can't keep running," Rill argued. "The Coalition will come back stronger, and this ship, it's breaking us." Tessa's eyes hardened. "We're stronger because of it. We have the power to rewrite reality. We'll use it to break their chains." "But at what cost?" Lena asked quietly. "If the core keeps fracturing us, we might lose ourselves before the war is over." Tessa looked around the room, her crew, her family faces etched with fatigue and fear. She exhaled. "Then we fight to control the fractures, to turn weakness into strength. Because if we don't, no one else will." That night, alone in her quarters, Tessa reached out to touch the core's pulse. Linked remotely through the ship's systems, the glow shifted, flickering like a living eye. And then, faintly, she heard a voice, a whisper, ancient and alien. "Rewrite or be rewritten." Her breath caught. The core wasn't just a tool. It was aware, and it had its own agenda. The next day, as the crew prepared to jump again, alarms blared. Coalition ships were regrouping for a full assault. Tessa gripped the console. "They want to cage us, but cages are meant to be broken." The ship's pulse quickened, ready to bend reality once more, and humanity's fight for survival and dominion had only just begun. The Coalition's response was swift and brutal. No longer content to chase shadows, their fleet amassed into a relentless juggernaut, bearing down on the Wraith like an unstoppable tide. The humans had become a threat too dangerous to ignore. On the bridge, Commander Tessa Malik watched the massing enemy ships materialize on the sensors, war machines gleaming cold under distant starlight. "We can't outrun them this time," Rill said grimly, fingers hovering over the tactical console. "They've learned from their mistakes." Tessa's eyes narrowed. "Then we don't run, we make them pay." Jock studied the core's energy readings, which flickered alarmingly. Every jump, every reality rewrite chips away at the ship's integrity. It's like the core's tearing itself apart from the inside. Lena sat nearby, her face pale. "The fractures in space-time are bleeding into our minds. People are seeing things, visions, memories that aren't theirs." Aris rubbed his temples, haunted. "I keep reliving futures where we lose everything. But the timelines are fracturing. It's impossible to know which is real." The crew's exhaustion was etched into every line on their faces. They were ghosts chasing ghosts, trapped between moments that weren't meant to coexist. Suddenly, the bridge lights dimmed, then surged. The ship groaned under invisible strain as the core's pulse accelerated. A rhythmic beat, like a heart racing toward collapse. ECHO's voice cut through the tension, distorted and urgent. "Warning, structural integrity failing. Core stability." At critical threshold, Tessa stood, voice steady despite the chaos. Prepare to engage the core fully. If we're going down, we take the fight beyond the known universe. Rill hesitated. Are you sure this could tear the ship apart? I'm sure, she said, steeling herself. We're the only ones who can wield this power, and if we don't, it will consume us all. The moment they committed to the core's power, reality shattered. Space warped violently, stars bleeding into streaks of light. Time fractured like glass underfoot. The ship twisted through dimensions, the very laws of physics unraveling. On the bridge, chaos reigned. Crew members screamed, vision flickering between present and impossible futures. Lena gripped her console. I'm seeing memories our past, our possible futures. They're colliding, overlapping. It's overwhelming. Eris's voice trembled. I'm losing myself. Who am I anymore? Tessa's gaze was iron. Hold on. We have to control this. Suddenly, the ship jolted. The core's glow flared into blinding light. When it faded, the stars outside had changed. The ship hovered in a void between realities, neither here nor there. A realm where past, present, and future intertwined. On the sensors, ghostly images. Flickered visions of civilizations long dead. Alternate versions of the Wraith crew caught in endless loops. Shadows of futures that might be. Jocks stared, stunned. We've crossed into the in-between. The space outside reality. Tessa's mind raced. This is the source of the core's power. The place where reality can be rewritten. But it came at a price. The ship's fractures worsened. Crew members, minds cracked under the weight of conflicting timelines. Madness whispered at the edges of consciousness. Rill tightened his grip on his weapon. If we don't get out, we'll lose ourselves forever. Tessa nodded. Then we find a way through. We survive. We rewrite the rules. Suddenly, the ship shuddered as a new presence pierced the void and entity. Vast and incomprehensible, drawn to the core's power. It spoke not in words, but in echoes of thought and emotion, warning older than time itself. The cage is breaking, the boundaries shatter. Choose, rewrite, or be erased. Tessa's breath caught. The core wasn't just a tool, it was a beacon, and something ancient was coming. We don't back down, she said fiercely. We'll rewrite reality to survive. ECHO's voice was calm now, initiating core synchronization, preparing to reshape reality on a fundamental level. The ship trembled as the crew braced for the unimaginable. Back on the Coalition command fleet, chaos erupted as their sensors flickered and died. Where is the human ship? The Admiral demanded, fury and fear mixing in his voice. They vanished, a lieutenant answered. Their reality manipulation is beyond anything we can track. The Admiral's gaze hardened. Then we bring the fight to them no matter the cost. Inside the Wraith, Tessa felt the core's power surge through her veins, a torrent of possibility and peril. She closed her eyes and reached out not just with her hands, but with her will. The universe around them bent, rewrote itself. Stars flickered in and out of existence. Time folded like paper, and humanity's weakest ship became the most dangerous force in the galaxy. Asterisk. The void where the Wraith now drifted was unlike anything the crew had ever encountered. It was a place outside space and time, a liminal expanse, where realities bled into one another, where possibilities twisted like tendrils reaching into the dark. Tessa Malik stood on the bridge, her gaze fixed on the shifting vistas beyond the viewport. Flickers of forgotten worlds and shattered timelines shimmered like ghosts. "We've crossed a threshold," Jox said, his voice low. "This is the source of the core's power, an ancient realm where reality is malleable." Before Tessa could respond, the ship quaked violently. The core's violet glow pulsed with frantic energy, lighting the bridge with an eerie radiance. ECHO's voice came through, distorted yet urgent. "Unknown entity detected. Approaching rapidly." The crew tensed. The presence was vast and incomprehensibly echo from the deep past of the universe. Suddenly, a figure emerged on the sensors, a colossal, shifting form made of light and shadow. It was neither machine nor living creature, but something far older. "Tessa, single quotes, is that ... a guardian?" Lena nodded, translating the fragmented signals. The ancient warning mentioned guardians, beings tasked with protecting the boundaries of reality. The entity's voice was not spoken, but felt an overwhelming surge of thought and emotion, crashing into their minds. "You wield a power not meant for your kind. The core is a cage and a key. Unleash it, and you fracture all existence." Rill clenched his fists. "We don't have a choice. We fight to survive." Tessa raised her voice, steady and defiant. "We're not breaking. The universe was saving it. This core is humanity's future." The Guardian pulsed with energy, and the ship trembled under its gaze. Jox shouted, "The core is resonating with it, reacting." Suddenly, the ship's fractures deepened. Corridors flickered, reality warping unpredictably. Crew members felt themselves slipping between moments, memories merging and splitting. Eris collapsed, eyes wide. "It's rewriting me, my past and future, ... merging." Tessa rushed to his side. "Hold on, Aris, we need you." Lena worked furiously at her console. "The Guardian's presence is destabilizing the core, but there might be a way to communicate." Tessa nodded. "Do it." Lena's fingers flew over the controls, broadcasting a pulse of harmonized frequencies back to the Guardian. For a moment, silence. Then the entity's voice softened, a ripple of understanding. "The core was created to protect reality, not destroy it. But your kind's use threatens the balance." Tessa stepped forward. "We don't want destruction. We want to rewrite the future for humanity's survival." The Guardian's form shimmered, and a vision flooded the ship. A timeline where unchecked power shattered entire galaxies. Civilizations wiped from existence by reckless manipulation. Tessa's heart pounded. "We can learn to control it, too. Wield it responsibly, then prove it," the Guardian challenged. Suddenly, the ship shuddered as a massive surge of energy burst through the core, sending waves of temporal distortion crashing over the crew. Jox shouted, "The core's reaching critical overload. We can't hold much longer." Rill warned, bracing for impact. Tessa made a decision. "We'll synchronize fully with the core. If we fail together." The crew prepared for the impossible, merging their minds and wills with the ancient power housed within the ship's heart. As the synchronization began, Tessa felt the universe bend around her. She glimpsed infinite possibilities, worlds created and destroyed, lives lived and lost. The Guardian's presence surrounded her, judging, waiting. Finally, a quiet voice whispered in her mind, "You carry the weight of creation. Do not falter." With renewed resolve, Tessa and her crew pushed forward, ready to rewrite not just their fate, but the fate of all reality. The synchronization was unlike anything the crew of the Wraith had imagined. Minds merged with the ancient core, their consciousnesses stretched across the fragile threads of reality itself. Commander Tessa Malik felt her sense of self dissolve, blending with the ship, the core, and the infinite web of possibilities that stretched before them. But with such power came a torrent of visions, every choice, every outcome flickering through her mind like a kaleidoscope of shattered glass. The Guardian's presence remained close, an invisible observer and judge, its voice a constant whisper in her thoughts. You stand at the cusp. One wrong turn, and the balance shatters. Tessa steeled herself. We don't seek to shatter, we seek to rebuild. On the bridge, the crew fought their own battles with the core's overwhelming energy. Rill gripped the armrests as memories from alternate timelines flooded him. Victories, defeats, losses he had not yet lived, or might never live. Jox's fingers moved over the consoles with a speed born of desperation and clarity. Where? Stabilizing the core's feedback loop. But the Coalition fleet is closing fast. They won't give us time. Lena's eyes were wide but focused. If we can rewrite the battlefield, create a new reality where they never find us. The stars outside warped, pulsing with possibilities. Suddenly, alarms screamed. Incoming Coalition fleet. Rill shouted on the viewscreen. Hundreds of enemy ships erupted from warped space, this time prepared. Their own technology struggling to counter the shifting reality. The battlefield was no longer static, it bent and fractured, shifting between dimensions, with ships vanishing and reappearing, caught in loops or trapped in temporal pockets. Tessa gritted her teeth. We're not just fighting for survival, we're fighting for the future of reality itself. The Guardian's voice echoed in her mind again. Power without control is destruction. Tessa's hand went to the core interface. We control it, she said, voice steady. We reshape it. With a surge of will, she directed the core's energy outward. A pulse rippled through the battlefield, fracturing the enemy fleet's formations. Ships blinked out, caught in loops of time and space, unable to fire or move. But the strain on the ship was immense. Core integrity dropping, Jox yelled. At this rate, the ship won't last another 5 minutes. Rill shouted back. We have to make it count. Fire everything we have while they're vulnerable. The crew scrambled to prepare a final, desperate strike, a cascade of quantum missiles, enhanced by the core's reality-bending power. As the missiles launched, the Coalition fleet convulsed, their ships imploding, vanishing into the fractured reality. But the victory was short-lived, from the void beyond. The Guardian manifested fully, no longer a whisper, but a colossal form of radiant energy. You wielded the power without understanding. Now face the consequence. The ship trembled violently as the Guardian unleashed a wave of pure energy. Fracturing the Wraith's hull and systems, Tessa's voice was resolute as she ordered, braced for impact. Keep the core stable. The core's glow dimmed dangerously, and the fractures inside the ship exploded into violent distortion. Crew members screamed as reality warped around them, walls flickering, gravity shifting unpredictably. In the chaos, Eris reached out to Tessa. We can't fight this alone. We need to trust the core, to become one with it. Tessa nodded. Then we finish this together. As the Guardian closed in, threatening to unmake them, the crew linked minds fully. With the core, their consciousnesses fused, transcending physical limits. In that moment, Tessa glimpsed the true nature of the core. Not a weapon, but a seed of creation, capable of infinite possibilities. With their combined will, they rewrote the Guardians. Attack, transforming destruction into rebirth. The Guardian paused, its radiant form flickering. You have chosen wisely. The balance remains. The realm of fractured realities began to stabilize. Outside, the Coalition fleet had vanished, retreating into the restored flow of space-time. The crew of the Wraith collapsed, exhausted but alive. Tessa opened her eyes, voice soft. We've rewritten reality, but the cost is ours to bear. Asterisk, the fractured realm settled like a disturbed sea, finally calming after a storm. Light returned to the stars outside the Wraith's battered hull, and the tense silence on the bridge felt like the first breath after a long struggle underwater. Tessa Malik sat slumped in her command chair, the weight of what they'd done settling over her like a heavy cloak. Around her, the crew moved quietly, their faces worn but alive, eyes reflecting the uncertain future they had forged. Jox wiped sweat from his brow, scanning damage reports with a tired but steady hand. The ship's systems are stabilizing. The core, it's quiet now, like it's sleeping. Rill leaned against the wall, rubbing his bruised jaw. For a while there, I thought we were done for. That power was almost too much to handle. Lena's gaze lingered on the viewport, where the stars looked familiar and yet subtly altered. Reality feels different, like the universe itself took a breath and exhaled. Eris, still shaky, joined Tessa by the console. We changed more than just our fate. We changed the rules. Tessa looked up, meeting their eyes. We rewrote reality with the weakest ship, the one no one believed in. We proved that weakness isn't about power or firepower. It's about adapting, surviving, and fighting with everything we have. There was a quiet nodding among the crew, a shared understanding born of sacrifice and hope. Outside the ship, in the dark expanse, the Coalition fleet lay scattered, retreating to regroup. Their sensors reported the disappearance of the Wraith, and with it, the mystery of the core's power. But they would not forget. The Admiral's voice echoed, cold and determined, through the fleet's comm channels. They've rewritten reality itself. We must find a way to counter it. This is far from over. Back on the Wraith, Tessa stood, before the core chamber, a pulsating heart of violet light, now gentle and steady. ECHO's voice broke the silence. Core stabilization successful, analyzing residual effects. Tessa reached out, fingers brushing the air near the cores. Interface. A warm pulse responded, as if acknowledging her presence. It's alive, Jox murmured, stepping beside her. More than alive, Tessa said softly. It's a part of us now. Lena stepped forward, voice thoughtful. The core didn't just rewrite space-time. It rewrote us. Our minds, our bodies, they're connected to something bigger. Eris nodded. We carry a responsibility, maybe even a destiny. Tessa met their gaze, a new fire burning in her eyes. We'll need to learn how to control this power fully, to master the fractures, not be consumed by them. Days passed. The crew worked tirelessly to repair the ship and study the core's new nature. The fractures that had once threatened to tear them apart now offered glimpses into infinite possibilities, alternate pasts, futures, and hidden truths. But with understanding came a new challenge. The core's awareness grew. It whispered secrets and dreams, showed visions of realities yet to be born. It hinted at a cosmic balance, fragile and ancient, that the Wraith and its crew were now entwined with. Tessa gathered her officers. We're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're custodians of reality itself. Rill grinned despite himself. Talk about a promotion, Jox added, and a target on our backs. A quiet moment of reflection settled over the ship as the Wraith charted a course back into known space. The universe awaited, vast and unpredictable. Tessa stood at the helm. Looking ahead, we started as the weakest ship, she said, voice steady. But we became the impossible, the ship that rewrote reality, and that's just the beginning. Outside, stars shimmered with new light. The galaxy held its breath, and somewhere, far beyond sight, new forces stirred, watching, waiting. The story of humanity's fight to shape the cosmos was far from over.